You might think retirement planning is all about saving money. Well, saving money is just a start. It's also about asking the right questions, because the right questions can lead you to the right retirement plan. That's why today we're going to cover the 7 essential checklist items that your financial advisor should be asking you as you head toward retirement. We're going to talk about creating reliable income, maximizing Social Security, and building a plan that gives you and your loved ones peace of mind as you head to retirement. Hi, I'm Molly Nelson here with Clint Hunt-Rods and Lauren Merkel. They're both certified financial fiduciaries. Lauren is also a certified financial planner, and Clint has a PhD. Today, we're talking about these 7 essential questions that your financial advisor should be asking you. And we've got question number 1 right here. What do you want to do with your free time in retirement? Lauren, this is interesting because most people aren't thinking about talking to their financial advisor about their free time.
But they should be. But oftentimes we find that advisors are not talking to their clients about what they want to do in the free time. But this is an essential question. In fact, recently I was at one of our client events talking with one of our new clients, and what he told me is he said the first time he sat down with you, Clint, he was taken away because he came prepared. He had his statements. He was all prepared to talk about his investments and his mutual funds and all that kind of stuff. Sure. But the first question that you asked him is, what do you want to do when you retire? And then you continued on asking about his hobbies and his family. And he was just taken aback. He said, I was prepared to talk about the investments, right? The financial aspect. And you wanted to know about what he wanted to do in retirement. And he was really pleasantly surprised.
Yeah, because we know that a lot of times what you guys both hear is that a lot of financial advisors are focused on investments and not focused on that piece of lifestyle. That's what we call this, planning for your lifestyle. But it's important, Clint, and why is that?
Yeah, it's really important. I was just recently talking with a family, and over the summer, this grandpa was taking his kids to golf camp. And he was so excited. The first summer now he can take his kids to golf camp, enjoy a hobby that they were able to build and bond together with. And you think about, well, he's going to chase grandkids in retirement. I can think of another couple, a family that we work with, chasing grandkids for them was all the way across the country. They were having to travel from Iowa, where they lived, all the way to Bozeman, Montana, where their grandkids were. So they were traveling about every 5 or 6 weeks back and forth. That leads to expenses in retirement. And then a big shift that happened for them is they actually decided to move to Bozeman, Montana. So now not only are we thinking about the change of we're leaving this house, changing jobs, but going to a different state now leads to different state income tax on retirement income. Those are all really important things that we think of as lifestyle, or what do you want to do with your free time in retirement, has a really big impact on your retirement plan.
And that's the key right there. And that's why we start with, what does your lifestyle look like in retirement? Because it will impact your financials. The cost of living in Bozeman is significantly different than the cost of living in Des Moines or Colfax or any other place in the state of Iowa. The expenses that you're going to need to have the lifestyle that you want is going to be a pivotal part of your overall plan. So we want to know you. We want to get to know you. What makes you tick? What are your hobbies? What do you like? What do you don't like? But from a financial standpoint, it makes complete sense to start with your lifestyle.
Okay, let's go to question number 2. These are the questions that your financial advisor should be asking you as you head toward retirement. What's your plan for electing Social Security? A lot of times we hear people say, Clint, that maybe their financial advisor isn't really too involved in their Social Security decision.
Yeah, sometimes they'll say, go ahead and elect and just let us know what you've decided. There's so much value that we've been able to add and help families through that Social Security decision. Let's help you maximize that, see how it fits across your benefit, across your household. How does it fit within the investments that you have, the lifestyle goals you have in retirement? And this is something that not everyone feels like maybe they're getting as much help as they need because people aren't proactively talking about it. You take an example like a survivorship benefit. That can be very complex, hard to understand. There was one family we started working with, and they had a survivorship benefit available to them. No one had ever told them that. Social Security wasn't calling them to say that, hey, there's a benefit available to you, and they had no idea. So we recently started working with an individual, and she also is likely to have a survivorship benefit. That is shaping part of her income plan. That's shaping her retirement date. That's something that we really want to be thinking about proactively. And sometimes people aren't even talked about as to what benefits they have and how to use them within their financial plan.
And that's why calling the Social Security Administration and asking them what I should do with my Social Security benefits isn't the most appropriate strategy, because the Social Security Administration and people who work there do a really good job of telling you what your Social Security benefit is if you turn it on at age 62 or age 67 or age 70. But they're not privy to all your financials. They're not privy to your lifestyle plan. They're not privy to any of the other elements that make up your retirement plan. So them giving you advice on when you should take your Social Security payment leads to more trouble, oftentimes more than a benefit.
So not only do you help people elect Social Security, you work it into their plan. That also often helps them maximize and get the most out of the benefit.
Yeah, and the average married couple has up to 81 different options to choose from. So sometimes it's hard to figure out, well, do I elect it right away? Do I wait until retirement, full retirement age, maximize it at age 70? Those are things we can help you plan within your retirement plan to help make sure that you are maximizing that benefit, which for a single individual could be up to $500,000 across their lifetime. A married couple, that's $1 million benefit. We want to help them maximize it. Think of it as $1 million asset. How do we best fit that and maximize it across your retirement plan?
And because it's such a big asset, yes, we do also elect the benefits for most of our families as well. You elect Social Security probably one time. We have elected Social Security hundreds of times, so we know how to navigate the system and then also make decisions that go with when you should take your Social Security, like what should you do from a tax withholding standpoint.
Checklist item number 3 on questions your financial advisor should be asking you is, how will you create reliable income that lasts as long as you do? And a lot of times we hear that people say that they're, some person they're working with, Lauren, might just say, hey, turn it on like a faucet. And that doesn't feel like the best strategy.
Yes, what should I do to get retirement income when I retire? Well, just turn it on. It's like a faucet. Isn't that easy? But then that leaves you with so many other questions, like, when I turn this income on like a faucet, specifically, where does this income come from? Does it come from my 401k plan, my IRA, my Roth? What does that mean from a tax standpoint? Oh, by the way, how much of this income do I get out of this faucet? Is it enough to provide you with your lifestyle? And are you going to run out of money before you run out of time? All of those questions creep in. It's not as easy, unfortunately, as just turning it on like a faucet.
Yeah, so which faucet, how much to turn on is the problem, but the solution is an income plan.
Yeah, and just be proactive about this. This is not something you want to all of a sudden say, hey, I'm going to retire, now I want to go for income, and then you start to map out that income plan. These are things that your advisor should be talking to you about now to help make sure that you are prepared, that no matter what the market does between now and when you decide to retire, or if you're in retirement and there's market volatility, we know there will be, are you prepared for that? Are you planning for that? And if you're not having conversations about that, your plan could be exposed.
And that's the value of the income plan. The income plan shows you, it is your income roadmap. So it shows you at point of retirement, here's specifically where your money's going to come from. Here's how much money you can afford to take now and later. Here's how you're going to account for inflation adjustments as we go down the road. Here's how you're going to account for the taxation of the income that you do take. All of that goes into the income plan, and your income plan needs to be written out. So it's not just a verbal communication between you and your advisor. It's on paper, you see it, you get to refer back to it, and then everybody is on the same page as you go make this transition into retirement.
Question number 4, what are you planning for taxes in retirement and just before? And Lauren, question number 4 is interesting because a lot of time when people think about planning for taxes, they really just think about working with their CPA.
Because that's what we think about each and every year. We have to file our taxes, and that's what our CPAs are really effective at. But there's a difference between tax filing and tax planning. What most CPAs do is tax filing. And when you file your taxes, you are recording history for that particular year. And when you record history for that particular year, it's very difficult to positively influence it with any particular type of strategy. When you're tax planning, you are looking at this current year, but you're also looking at next year and 5 years and 10 and 15 years down the road. And then when you combine all of those strategies that are available to you by incorporating tax planning this year and the future, now you can really positively impact current taxes, but also most importantly, your taxes over the course of your entire retirement time frame.
And tax planning is something that you guys do with the families and individuals that you work with. And you've got a great example of how you look forward. We're going to compare and contrast two couples. We've got Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax and Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified.
Absolutely. They can be a little bit challenging to quantify the impact of proactive tax planning. And as we walk through this case study, we can see the impact of one family that had a proactive tax plan and one family that really didn't. So we've got the two different couples, Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax, and they've saved 100% of their assets for retirement in the pre-tax bucket. It's all tax deferred. Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified have more diversification across their portfolio. Not only do they have a pre-tax bucket, they also have some Roth dollars and non-qualified dollars. When we look at this example, both of them have saved $1 million for retirement, but everything else is the same other than the tax diversification within their portfolio. So we can see that they are both looking to spend $7,000 per month each and every month throughout their retirement. We show that that's going to go up over time with inflation. For these couples, they're the same age, they have the same retirement date, we've got the same Social Security amounts and election strategy that they're going to choose. The only difference is the tax diversification within their portfolio. As we look specifically at Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax, 100% of those dollars have been saved in that pre-tax bucket for retirement. That means when they take distributions out to get income, it will all be taxed at earned income rates. So as they, across their lifetime, as they go through their retirement, when they take distributions out for income and when they take distributions out for required minimum distributions, that's going to all be taxed. When we add up that total tax bill, we would find that they would have around $740,000 that they'll pay in taxes across their retirement. Sounds like a big number. We think about their assets are growing over time, and they're going to be taking those distributions out for income as well as the forced distributions at R&DH. So $742,000 of a federal tax bill that they have. We also can start to look at how do their assets grow over time. They've taken those distributions out, but when we look at age 100, they have around $670,000 that they would then be able to pass on to their beneficiaries. So as we start to think about this couple, they've accomplished a lot of the retirement goals that they have, but if they had been more proactive, like Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified, then they could probably see a very different impact. So when we look specifically at Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified, we can see that they have about 60% that's been saved in those pre-tax buckets, but by working with a retirement planner, so they once looked very similar to Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax, but by working with a retirement planner, helping more proactive tax strategies to implement, they've been able to develop about 30% of their overall portfolio into that Roth bucket. They've also started to build up this green part down here, which is non-qualified. About 10% of their portfolio is non-qualified. As they walk through retirement, they're still going to have a tax bill that they're going to experience. It's going to be around $500,000. Again, we're adding up each and every year throughout their retirement. We showed they'd have about a $500,000 tax bill. When we look at the impact of these assets growing over time, we are going to show that this family has about $1.2 million that they would be able to pass on to their beneficiaries in this example, assuming that they live to age 100. So that's very different than the couple that had saved 100% pre-tax. When we compare these two back and forth, we can see Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax, federal tax bill, about $740,000. Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified, by saving more diversified, they've been able to lower about $200,000 on the tax bill that they're going to pay across their retirement. When we think about the couples and what they had at age 100 from a legacy standpoint, Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax, about $660,000, they were able to pass on to their beneficiaries. Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified had $500,000 more. They were able to pass on $1.2 million to their beneficiaries as part of their legacy. Not only that, but also we start to think about the breakdown of how those assets are tax classified when they get passed on. We see that Mr. and Mrs. Pre-Tax still have about 50% of their legacy has never seen tax before. Now their kids or their beneficiaries are going to pay the tax bill on half of those dollars. But when we look at Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified, not only did they have $1.2 million, 100% of that was Roth, which means that their beneficiaries will not have a tax bill associated with those dollars. They will get the actual $1.2 million with no tax bill that's tagging along like Mr. and Mrs. pre-tax faced. So we can see this comparison of the proactive tax planning versus the family that had saved pre-tax and really didn't make any shifts to prepare for their retirement tax bill.
Wow, what a difference. Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified really did a good job of creating that tax diversification as they went to and through retirement. They saved over a couple $100,000 off their retirement tax bill. Then at age 100, they had significantly more money than Mr. and Mrs. Pre-tax, and they were able to pass on a whole lot more to their kids. And when their kids received this money, they had a lot more tax benefits available to them because of the diversification that Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified created. So if you're sitting there at home thinking, sign me up for Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversification, that's what you want. There are a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome to do that. That does not happen by accident. Most people are Mr. and Mrs. Pre-tax because those are the types of vehicles that you had available to you to save your money in over the course of your savings career. But now it's a matter of how do you take that money systematically, intentionally, and diversify it from a tax standpoint to make sure that you can optimize your overall portfolio from a tax standpoint and put yourself in a position where potentially you can have a retirement like Mr. and Mrs. Tax Diversified.
And I want to make a note for those that are watching. Maybe it could be just a Mr. or just a Mrs. Tax Diversified. This works for singles as well.
Yeah, in some cases, it's even more important if you're single to have a proactive tax plan. All of those dollars that you have saved, you're going to be filling up the tax brackets quicker as a single person. And then the other thing you always want to think about is what if it was a couple that was married, they've saved together, built that together, one of them passes, now you're taxed at single tax rates for the surviving spouse.
Question number 5, what's your plan if you or your spouse need long-term care? And Clint, this is one of those difficult conversations, but it's really important.
Yeah, and I think that's maybe why sometimes advisors aren't talking about it, is it can be a complex area. And if you aren't asking about it, sometimes they maybe won't proactively talk about it. But this is something that's really important, is the sooner you have those conversations, implement some of those strategies, the better.
And we know, Lauren, that 70% of those 65 today will need some form of long-term care. So ignoring it or not having that conversation, not the best idea.
Yeah, for many people, it's not if, it's when. So it needs to be addressed within the overall plan. And if your advisor's not talking about it, you do need to address it because this is your retirement. And you can take a multifaceted approach. That's what we do. A lot of the times people will default to a self-insure strategy because they don't know what else they can do. Long-term care is really expensive. Long-term care insurance is also really expensive. What most people don't know, though, is there's a lot of alternative ways you can offset the risk of long-term care. What we do is we look at all of those different options. Option A, option B, option C, which is the best one for you, what works for you. And by the way, self-insuring can be one of those options. But the point is you're making an intentional decision based on all the information, and you feel really confident about the outcome of that analysis process. You have a long-term care plan, you're confident about it, and you know it's going to work if and when you do need long-term care.
And that gets to that peace of mind that we talked about at the top of the show. A plan that gives you peace of mind, knowing how you're going to pay for it if you should need it. Number 6, do you have a game plan for market volatility? And a lot of times when market volatility hits, we know that people get nervous, they get scared, especially if they don't have a plan that hedges for that market volatility.
Yeah, and in so many cases that strategies that got them to retirement are not the ones that are the best to move them forward. And so you want to start to think about how should my investment portfolio start to shift for this new phase of life, and make sure that you are prepared for that market volatility, that it shouldn't catch you off guard. We know we're going to go through a recession on average every 5 to 6 years. Let's build in strategies to prepare for that and then to be able to capitalize it when it does happen.
Yeah, Lauren, and as a retirement planner, what you help people do is build recession-resistant portfolios.
Yeah, and identify how much risk they are currently taking in their portfolio, how much risk is appropriate for them to take in their portfolio, and then making sure that you construct a portfolio that is appropriate for everything you're trying to accomplish. A recession-resistant portfolio is a wonderful way to make sure when the markets blow up, your portfolio doesn't blow up. More importantly, your retirement doesn't blow up. And when the markets are good, you get a reasonable return, enough return to accomplish your goals. And most people in retirement or looking to retire shortly are trying to accomplish a couple things when it comes to their investment portfolio. One is you need to beat inflation. You need to beat taxation, and then you want to grow it a little bit on top of that to achieve all of the lifestyle goals. You accomplish that, and you accomplish that with confidence and intention. That will take a lot of the anxiety that most people have as we go through these severe ups and downs of the market.
Yeah, and then people don't have to feel like a victim. They don't have to watch the headlines or see in their news feed all this stuff about the markets and worry about their retirement. That's, again, that peace of mind.
And knowledge is power. So when they understand how your portfolio could respond and react in those market downturns, they know what to expect. In many cases, families have never had that conversation before. And that's something that for every family we work with, we want to analyze how much risk you're currently taking. And as we develop recommendations to move forward, what would that look like?
Yeah.
How's that different? And then they have a good understanding of what to expect.
Yeah, I think control is the optimal word there. Take control of what feels like an uncontrollable situation. Most people don't feel like they have any control over their portfolio because they have no control over the markets. That's not true. Yes, it is true you don't have control over the markets, but to a large degree, you can control what your portfolio does if you create that investment plan that works with your retirement plan.
Number 7, your financial advisor should be asking you, what's your plan for your spouse or loved ones if something happens to you? And Lauren, a lot of times you might hear people say, well, I've got my beneficiaries up to date, I'm good, right? But that's not enough.
The beneficiaries are just one piece of your overall legacy plan. And by the way, many instances, there are mistakes on their beneficiaries, especially with employer-sponsored plans, because your employer switches their plan from one custodian to another. Oftentimes, those beneficiaries are left out. People pass away. That creates big headaches. But it goes way farther than the beneficiary. You need to make sure that you have a will. For many people, especially if you own your home, even if you have a mortgage on your home, a trust, a revocable living trust, is a good legacy planning strategy to help things bypass probate and go more effectively to your kids, your loved ones, and your charities. So the legacy plan is way more than just the beneficiaries. We need to make sure beneficiaries are accurate, but let's look comprehensively at what you're trying to accomplish when you pass and the best way to do so.
And as we build up plans out for families, something that really stands out is that now everyone can see what their retirement's going to look like, what would happen if you needed long-term care, if someone passes away, then everybody's on the same page. And in many cases, there's a probably one primary person in your household that takes the lead on finances. The plan starts to give a roadmap that everybody can see and understand so that the couple is on the same page, and they're also on the same page with their retirement planner.
And what this boils down to, guys, really is there's a difference between a financial advisor and a retirement planner.
Yeah, there most definitely is, and neither one of them are wrong. It's just you use an advisor, a financial advisor, for the working time frame of your years, and you use a retirement planner as you're looking to make that transition from the working time frame to the retirement time frame. They're both going to do very specific things, but they're going to be both different. If you're using a financial advisor as you prepare for retirement or go through retirement, it's just incomplete. The retirement planner will give you the full picture. All the stuff we're talking about here in today's show, the comprehensive written retirement plan, all that stuff should be in there.
If your financial advisor isn't asking these questions, it might be time to talk to a retirement planner. You can do that. It's a low-key conversation. It's a retire-ready call. It's also complimentary. So you can schedule it right now at retirereadycall.com. There's a calendar there. Just choose a time and a date, and you can start talking about your retirement. This is Retiring Today, and we thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching. Click here for more great videos, and don't forget to subscribe for more retirement planning content.